Глубоко уважаемые коллеги и гости, сегодня 14 сентября 2021 года, 11:00 по московскому времени. Позвольте открыть заседание диссертационного совета. Объявляем технический перерыв номер 1. Технический перерыв номер 1 закрываем.
First technical break is over. Let us continue the open session of the Dissertation Council for the defense of thesis of Jianfei for the degree of Candidate of Economical Sciences, Management of the National Economy, on the theme Prospects and Potential of Development of Neuro-technology and their use in the e-commerce of China. Our Dissertation Council was appointed by the order of the Academic Secretary of St. Petersburg University, Alexander Valentinovich Gniotov, on the 30th of July 2021, number 5887/1, and me, Korostashevskaya Elena Mikhailovna, Doctor of Economics, Professor of Economics and Economical Policy, was appointed chairman of this Dissertation Council. Other members of the Council were appointed with the same order, and let me introduce them to you. Koroblova Olga Nikolaevna, Doctor of Economics, Professor of Department of Economics of Research and Development, Professor of the Department of Research and Development of St. Petersburg University. Elena Varna, Doctor of Economics, Professor of Management Department and Economics of Penza State University. In remote access mode, we have Platonov Vladimir Vladimirovich, Doctor of Economics, Professor of the Department of Management and Production Complexes of St. Petersburg University of Economics. Vladimir Vladimirovich, can you see and can you hear us? Yes, I can see. I can hear, but I cannot see you. I cannot see you. It says Dissertation Council. Professor Dobrish, what about you? Yes, I can see. Oh, okay, now we can see you. Thank you. Let us continue. The degree applicant, Jianfei, is also present. The academic supervisor of the applicant, Dr. Molchanov, is also present. Professor of St. Petersburg University. Let me inform you that our session is being recorded and broadcast live at St. Petersburg University website. Speeches are being simultaneously translated from Russian into English or from English into Russian. During the session, an email is currently displayed where, during our session, all the participants can send their questions regarding the thesis and the ongoing scientific discussion. These questions shall be forwarded to me by our technical support department, and I shall present them during the discussion. Questions should be related strictly to the applicant's presentation, the content of the thesis, and it's necessary to indicate full name, position, place of employment of the author. Questions that are not related to the ongoing discussion, the text of the thesis, shall not be presented. In accordance with the order of awarding academic degrees at St. Petersburg University, degree of candidate and doctor of science approved by the local regulations of St. Petersburg University, hereinafter the order, a session of the Dissertation Council shall be considered competent if at least 2/3 of the appointed members are present, but not less than 4 persons. Our council consists of 6 persons. All 6 are present, including 2 council members in the remote access mode. Audio-visual contact has been established with all the council members. Thus, we have the quorum. I invite the Dissertation Council Activity Support Department and curator of our today's session draw up the attendance list. Let me set forth the following procedure of today's session with the total duration of approximately 2 hours. First, summary report of the chairman on documents submitted by the applicant and their compliance with applicable regulations, answers to possible questions. Approximately 5 minutes. Applicant's summary report outlining the key points of his research. No more than 20 minutes. Questions to the applicant strictly on his report. Not more than 2 minutes per each question. Applicant's answers to all questions. Not more than 10 minutes. 5. Speeches of all the council members in turn with their assessment of the thesis, the applicant's speech, and summaries of their opinions, questions, and suggestions to the applicant. Approximately 10 minutes per each speaker. Next, chairman's report with his assessment of the thesis, applicant's answers to questions and comments made by the council members. No more than 20 minutes. Open discussion, speeches at will of the attendees, with summaries of their opinions and or specific questions and suggestions to the applicant. No more than 2 minutes for each speaker. At that, all the speakers are kindly requested to register themselves and introduce themselves before speaking. Next, presentation of questions to the applicant sent during the discussion and the scientific discussion while the session is being broadcast online at St. Petersburg University website. Answers of the applicant. Not more than 2 minutes for each question. Speech of the academic advisor. No more than 3 minutes. Discussion of the council members before open voting of the defense results. For that period, sound shall be switched off. Approximately 5 minutes. Open individual voting. Votes shall be counted by the chairman of the Dissertation Council and results shall be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. Making decision on awarding or not awarding the degree. And closing remarks of the applicant. No more than 2 minutes. Dear colleagues, do you have questions or objections to this procedure? No. No questions. If there are no objections, let's start the session, but please switch off your mobile phones. Thank you for your understanding. Let's start. The chairman's summary report. Summary report of the chairman. Jianfei wrote his thesis for the degree of candidate of economics, academic specialty 08005 Economics and National Economy Management on the theme Prospects and Potential for the Development of Neuro-technologies and their Application and Chinese E-Commerce, was accepted for defense by the order of Academic Secretary of St. Petersburg University on the 13th of April 2021, order number 3121/1. Jianfei wrote his thesis at St. Petersburg University under supervision of Molchanov Nikolai Nikolaevich, Doctor of Economics, Professor of the number of publications which set forth the main scientific results according to the enclosed list is 4. In peer-reviewed journals from the list approved by the Ministry of Science and Education, 3 publications. In journals indexed in scientometric databases, Web of Science and Scopus 1 publication, the applicant submitted to the academic secretary a full set of documents to accept his thesis for consideration and defense. All the documents comply with Article 12 of Section 3 of the Order. All the documents submitted by the applicant, according to the information I received from the curator, comply with the requirements and are kept in the applicant's attestation file. Copies are available from the Office of the Dissertation Council Support Department, who is now present. Before I give the floor to the applicant, do you, dear Council members, have any general questions to the applicant? And is it necessary to disclose the entire list of documents submitted by the applicant? Any questions? There are no questions. We have a small change. The thesis by Jianfei for the degree of candidate of economic sciences, academic specialty 0800 Economics and National Economy Management, on the theme Prospects and Potential for Development of Neuro-technologies and their application in Chinese e-commerce, was accepted for defense by the order of Academic Secretary of St. Petersburg University the 14th of May 2021, number 4870/1. Let us continue. Summary report of the applicant. The floor is yours, please. Dear Council members, dear Chairman, dear attendees, good morning. Let me present to you the results of my thesis. The theme of my thesis, Prospects and Potential for the Development of Neuro-technologies and their application in Chinese e-commerce. Specialty 080005 Economics and National Economy Management. The thesis was supervised by Doctor of Economics, Professor Nikolai Nikolaevich Molchanov. In the 21st century, marketologists started to separate that traditional marketing tools are no longer fully revealing consumer preferences, especially at subconscious and unconscious level, and focus their decisions. So some marketologists suggested to use neurotechnology as an alternative marketing tool. That's how the new subject emerged. Though neuromarketing has existed for almost 20 years, its understanding in sphere of commerce is still small. With fast development of the use of advanced neurotechnology to promote sales is a solution for many companies in this sphere. Yet at the moment, there are no studies how the Chinese public are aware of neurotechnology and neuromarketing, how the Chinese population views the use of neuromarketing in commerce, and how these technologies are used in e-commerce. Also, there's no comparative analysis of the current situation with neuromarketing in China and Russia. This explains the relevance of my research. Also, this thesis for the author is the basis of future career in China. At the moment, the author is trying to discuss the opportunity to join the team of Professor Wang Suyi as a trainee or assistant researcher to continue his research in the sphere of neuromarketing. Professor Wang Suyi of Zhanjiang University is one of the leading experts in China in the sphere of neuromarketing, neuroeconomy, and neuromanagement. Next, of the goals of study, The goal of my study was to shape the use of neurotechnology in marketing and e-commerce in China, considering specific features of Chinese economy and the changes made by the pandemic. The goals of the tasks are shown in this slide. The most important objectives was to analyze the attitude of Chinese people to the use of neurotechnology for commerce and to identify consequences of the pandemic on this e-commerce in China. Next, let's talk about the novelty of the study. The key point here is, as a result of comparative analysis, we found that awareness of respondents in Russia is on very superficial level. In Russian society, the information is available, though in China this information is less available. Today, the awareness factor is insignificant for shaping public opinion in both countries. The attitude of Russian and Chinese population is tolerance to neuromarketing. On the basis of the results of a field study, we made conclusions that, first, a big part of the Chinese population have vague concept of neuromarketing. Second, at the moment in China, there's no specific legislation in this sphere. Next, Chinese population are not aware of the use of neurotechnology in the sphere of e-commerce. And finally, we never identified significant differences in assessment of different aspects of neuromarketing among Chinese population, where neuromarketing, neurotechnologies are used. We shall discuss each point in more detail. On the basis of obtained results, we made conclusions that the level of development of neuromarketing in the world is uneven, and the leading countries there are US, UK, and Germany. Each country has own specific features. Neuromarketing started in the US. Germany created a specialized center for research on neuromarketing, and in UK, many commercial organizations that provide outsourcing services in France, the use of neurotechnology, especially if for commercial purposes, was prohibited for ethical reasons. In Japan, neuromarketing is include neurobiology and behavior in major universities. In Russia, the attitude has positive attitude to the use of neurotechnology and neuromarketing for commercial purposes, and considers this an accepted commercial stimulus. In China, in recent national equipment became available, but the spread of neuromarketing among residents is relatively low because of low availability of information about that. At this slide, you may see the main problems preventing the use of technologies for commercial purposes. The main problem is ethics, which include violation, the right for independent thinking of consumers, violation of potential harm, confidential information, and threats to vulnerable groups. Next, let's have a look at academic structure for development of neuromarketing in China. In continental China, at the moment, there are only 3 specialized laboratories with a wide range of tools for conducting experiments. The largest laboratory is in Zhejiang University, and the number of publications ranges and is not big. Well, the big infrastructure strength of this infrastructure is that it depends on financial support of the university, so it's has considerable freedom, but weakness is in the fact that it's not closely connected, not connected enough with commercial stimulus and results, are not aimed at further commercialization. Next, I supposed there are many general factors in the development of developed neuromarketing in Russia and China, since Russia and China are strategic partners. I conducted comparative analysis of development of this science in both countries. Here's the results we obtained. Superficial knowledge of neurotechnology and neuromarketing amongst the ordinary people in both countries shall inhibit their development. Opinion on the use of neurotechnology and neuromarketing as a natural commercial practice will stimulate the use of neurotechnology. Also, in Russia, there are channels of distribute information, but in China there are uneven infrastructure. The channels for distributing information are less developed. In order to increase awareness, Chinese and the use of neurotechnology for commercial purposes, and the author made some hypotheses for testing. On the basis of the tests, the author made the following conclusions. The prospect of development of neuromarketing in China depends on the fact that though most Chinese people have vague idea of neuromarketing, at the same time there's no hostile attitude to this science. Also, China doesn't have specialized legislation to introduce legal prohibition on neurotechnology for commercial purposes. Companies, e-commerce companies, look at neurotechnology and neuromarketing as a new solution to continue promotion of their goods and stimulating sales. Companies may use results of experiments with the use of eye tracking, electroencephalograph to design search pages, payment page, to develop and select images on their websites and emails. Next, the author made 3 hypotheses to measure awareness of the Chinese population and in the sphere of email and the attitude of Chinese people to this use. According to the results of the author made the following conclusions. First, although the Chinese population is not well aware of application of neuromarketing in e-commerce, they are positive about its application in this field. Second, the Chinese no significant differences in the awareness of different aspects of neuromarketing where e-commerce platform use neuro-technologies. 3, the use of e-commerce for internet does not mean better awareness of the use of neurotechnology by these companies for commercial purposes. And in the final part of my research, the author made a number of other hypotheses to identify the changes in the environment that companies, e-commerce companies, are facing. According to the results, we came to the conclusion that first, pandemic of COVID-19 did not have a significant impact on expenditure of Chinese population. The consumption patterns made it more loyal to online shopping. 3, average browsing and purchase decision times on e-commerce platforms for Chinese residents during the pandemic increased slightly. 4, though some consumers had bad experience of the use of e-commerce platforms during the pandemic, they still used e-commerce platforms than usual shopping during that period and will make more online purchases in the post-pandemic era. And finally, Chinese consumers pay more attention to safety and price when shopping online than to other factors. On the basis of the results of the thesis, the author developed recommendations for the use of instruments of e-commerce for companies in China in special times. In general, Chinese companies should not disclose the use of neuromarketing and neurotechnology in their operations. Beginner companies can find cheaper ways to use neuromarketing. For example, in design or inbuilt cameras to get information about the time it takes to answer, and then analyze these questions are analyzed along with the time spent on answering this question to measure validity of the respondent answers. And in special times such as pandemic and post-pandemic era, e-commerce should avoid the use of elements that cause fear and anxiety in potential customers. Also, let me draw your attention to compliance of academic specialty passport, Bond 2122, 214, 215, 224, 228 and 229. Thank you for your attention. At that, my speech is over. Thank you very much. Then, let's ask questions. Dear council members, do you have any questions to the applicant? May I ask a question, please? My question is, your scientific result shown in slide 3. My question is, in your opinion, the academic structure for the study of neuromarketing already exists. Are there any other forces for development in neuromarketing in addition to universities? Do you have any other driving forces? Thank you for your question, Elena Mikhailovna. I think that if we compare China with other countries where a level of development of neuromarketing is high, the commercial stimulus in China is not that obvious, but recently China opened its market to outer world, and as a result many foreign countries now establish their branches, their offices in China, and can use neuromarketing for commercial purposes. But the attitude of Chinese government to neuromarketing is complex. On the one hand, the use of neuro in non-commercial, but on the other hand, there's no literature. There's no evidence that Chinese government accept or will soon accept a law on this activity. So specialized laboratories today are the main drivers of development of neuromarketing, and commercial stimulus takes the second place. Thank you for the answer. I have one more question. You described in your thesis approaches to the use of neuromarketing by giant companies and e-commerce platforms and neuromarketing. How your own neuromarketing strategy agrees with neurostrategy of e-commerce platforms. How do they agree? Once again, thank you for your question. In my opinion, first of all, as I analyzed in the second chapter of my thesis, commercial use of neuromarketing is not very common in China, and the degree of the level of development is fairly low compared to US and UK. And as a result of that, today in a Chinese market there are not that many companies that can afford to use neuromarketing for commercial activities, with the exception of major e-commerce platforms. As a result, most companies selling their products on e-commerce platforms do not have their own neuromarketing strategies. And from that point, the conflict that you mentioned is most likely non-existent. But on the other hand, there are many companies that place on e-commerce platforms, and for an individual isolated company, the position in the neuromarketing strategy of the platform may be unfavorable. So from that point, the conflict that you mentioned probably exists. But finally, it should be mentioned that general goals of individual companies and e-commerce platforms coincide. The more goods are sold, the more commission the platform gets, and the more advertising the company can place on the platform. And thus, from that position, even though own neuromarketing strategy contradicts the strategy of the platform, both parties are should be ready to agree. And I think in this case we should select the variant that guarantees highest sales among different options, integrating neuromarketing strategies of both players. Thank you, Jianfei. Dear council members, perhaps you have other questions, please. Olga Nikolaevna, welcome. I have a question that continues the discussion. Jianfei, you said in your report that neurotechnology and their use in neuromarketing it has been known for almost 20 years. So the technology has been in use for almost 20 years. So from scientific point, this sphere is quite well studied. So the technology are used, but practical application is not making any progress. So how would you explain what are the reasons for insufficient practical use of neurotechnology in marketing? What are the reasons, in your opinion, in practice? So this is my first question. And second question is connected with the first one. What should be done for neurotechnology to get a wider application? In one of the slides, you said that warm language should be used, no pressing messages. But maybe this is not enough. So maybe you have some other recommendations for neurotechnologies to be used more in neuromarketing. If you want me to repeat something, I can do that. Is it necessary to think? So, reasons and recommendations. Thank you for your question, Olga Nikolaevna. I think that why neurotechnology today, after 20 years, is not widely used in marketing, because at first, when these technologies appeared, their use of such technologies is quite expensive. So the costs are quite high. I still think that's one of the reasons. And in order to use these technologies, many professionals are needed. And as I said in my presentation today, only in Japan, neurotechnology and neuromarketing are included in neurobiology and behavior and courses taught at universities. And in China, Russia, and some other countries where neuromarketing and neurotechnology technology is not sufficiently developed, in this country, universities do not teach this subject. So I think we just lack professionals. What can we do to stimulate the use of these technologies in the future? I think that, well, first, as I said, in China, in the national market, the national equipment became available, which reduces the cost of that technology. Also, the earlier a law is put into effect, the higher the chances that companies will start thinking about using these technologies. Thank you for the answer. Well, Oleg Vladimirovich, your question, please. I have two questions. My first question is, well, there are some directions. Speaking of innovation, talking about developing new products. So what are the advantages from the point of neuromarketing? If we talk about innovations from the point of business, how will you explain advantages of neuromarketing when developing new products or new generations using neuromarketing? Your main advantages for when developing new products with the help of neuromarketing. Thank you for your question, Oleg Vladimirovich. I think that traditional marketing instruments do not completely reveal preferences of consumers. And here we see neuromarketing has an advantage compared with traditional marketing tools such as interviews. They do not reveal preferences of the customer. And if we use neurotechnology and neuromarketing, and we may get better, more accurate forecast, so that if we use neuromarketing, we will get products that better suit expectations of the consumer. So mostly it's about forecasting, I see. My second question. You said that there was a discussion about ethics of neuromarketing since this technology appeared. In your presentation you said, for example, that in France the use of neuromarketing for commercial purposes is prohibited. So what is your position about ethical aspect of neuromarketing? What do you think, and what is your forecast? How will that evolve in different countries? I think that here, well, the ethical aspect of neurotechnology depends on who and how the neuromarketing, neurotechnology is used for commercial purposes. In my opinion, there are no such technologies that so that neuromarketing should be prohibited. We have to regulate application of technology, of these technologies. I think that here the question of ethics, or is neuromarketing ethical, can be solved through developing in more appropriate advertising experiments and better and use these instruments in a more appropriate way. in individual countries. As a regulation should be implemented in separate countries. Thank you. Leila Ivarovna, do you have any questions? Yes, please tell me, how do you assess the potential of Chinese companies compared with foreign competitors? And what's the level of integration of China in international collaborations in this sphere? Thank you. Let me repeat your question. You want to ask what are the advantages of Chinese companies as compared with a potential. How competitive the Chinese companies are. Thank you for your question. Chinese companies in neuro-technology sphere, in my opinion, can provide outsourcing services to other companies or using neuro-technologies in their commercial practices. These could be different companies. At the moment in China, we have only two major companies that provide outsourcing service: Brain Intelligence Neuroconsultancy Limited and Kiefer Cooperative Beijing. And their advantage over American and British companies is in the fact that they are based in a large Chinese market, and they have better understanding of Chinese culture and how to work with Chinese companies. But their drawback is that there are not many professionals in the sphere of Euro marketing, and their professional level is not that high, so professional paradigm and quality of their services today maybe is not as good compared with international competitors. And there is a number of companies using neuromarketing in their activities, and their potential, first of all, is in availability of sufficient funds. And since today 143 companies, Chinese companies, are included in 2021, most likely they will be the main drivers in development of neuromarketing in China. And another important point, the centralized management model. What I mean is, under such management, companies can distribute their resources in a better way to develop neuromarketing, neurotechnology. Also, China has no law limiting the use of neurotechnology. So now the environment at the moment is ideal, but the weak part here compared to foreign competitors, they have a major market. They don't want to risk introducing new technologies and companies, and also there is no state policy. But in general, in my personal opinion, companies that provide outsourcing services find it difficult to compete with international companies. But companies that use neurotechnology have a great potential to compete with the foreign competitors. Thank you. Dear Council members working in the remote mode, do you have any questions to the applicant? Dobosh Imre? No, I don't have any questions. Thank you. Vladimir Vladimirovich? Here is my question, please, to the applicant. Today, there is a new economic resource, such as big data, and the value of this resource will certainly grow. There are some good papers dedicated to that. What do you think? Have you considered the use of big data for neuromarketing, and are these two tools connected, and what are the prospects? Is the question clear? I could not hear. How can big data be used in neuromarketing? So at that there is connection. Am I right? So what are the prospects? Is there any connection between big data and neuromarketing? Is big data connected with neuromarketing? Thank you for your question, Vladimir Vladimirovich. I think that we should consider the use of neuromarketing in the context of using big data. Here, in my opinion, there is a connection. For example, big data we can use to select variables. That's a typical question, how we can combine these two aspects, big data and neuromarketing. In my opinion, there is a connection. They can contribute. These technologies can contribute each other. If there are no further questions, let us continue. And let me inform you that we have not received any external reviews. That is why we will proceed to speeches of the council members. Let's give the floor to Vladimir Vladimirovich Platonov. Vladimir Vladimirovich, your review, please. Please turn the microphone on. Vladimir Vladimirovich, please turn the microphone. Can you hear me now? Yes. Now, yes, we can see and hear you. Since it's my first time being the first reviewer, I have a question. Maybe I read the entire review, because so maybe this relevance of the topic, the use of technology, enables us to study the needs of the client. As a result, their products. I will not read relevance of the work is certainly obvious, because contemporary economics is getting more and more cognitive, and at the same time this economy now oriented is becoming demand oriented. So these 2 points make this topic highly relevant, and the use of this technology obviously is relevant to be used in other spheres of economics, and is probably already used there. So that has to be discussed. That can be a very interesting topic. Validity, since I am the first one, is the 227 sources, half of which were in English. The author reviewed relevant publications. The paper is very interesting because this topic is highly relevant. Next, novelty of results, provisions. Speaking of validity, we have already discussed about scientific validity, the use of legal basis, we found that these technologies are, for example, prohibited in France. So all these things are very interesting. Among the main points of scientific novelty, first of all, the results of the comparative study. This is new, and at the same time, traditionally, what we pay attention is system of the main concepts in the sphere of neurotechnology and neuromarketing. This sphere is relatively new. The author made some contribution to terminology on the basis of source analysis. The author provided his own definition, study development of technology in Russia and China. Speaking of field studies, let me emphasize again that the results are very interesting, and the novelty also lies in creating a system and explaining the results with qualitative analysis. We should also mention author's system achievements of technology in the use of neuromarketing. Yet, as any scientific paper, as any piece of research, it's not maybe, especially in this new field, it has some drawbacks, but also, and since the topic is very new, well, there are some other points to be discussed. So here's we would like to get more position from the author on the subject research in neuromarketing, which represents one of the most important developments in cognitive economics and, in our opinion, an ambiguous use in the socio-humanitarian terms. I understood what the author thinks. My position is exactly the opposite. I certainly think when I hear how can we introduce neuromarketing, I get an impression that we are in a concentration camp. Like, how can we develop new technology for a gas chamber? Because from the point of good and evil, this technology is evil. First of all, it works on the subconscious level. Please look up the definition of neuromarketing. And second key word is manipulation. Manipulation. And at the same time, it's evil, and is so we can understand why it is prohibited in France. And it's impossible. On the other hand, it's completely impossible to prohibit. The same thing happened when nuclear bomb was invented. We had to live with it and regulate it. So certainly our positions are different, but we are scientists. And the most important thing for us is that in this thesis, this problem is identified. So there is research and resource-oriented approach, and by all the key factors, they do not justify their market value. So their value result from manipulation. So they started using neuromarketing a long time ago. When I was a boy, I read that before they showed beautiful blouse on a beautiful woman. But now it's no longer necessary to do that. Let this blouse appear. Let this blouse appear on television. So marketing provides new instruments for that. So we need to explore that. We need to understand what is happening and where it will take us. Next, point. More attention should have been paid to looking at neuromarketing in the context of a general trend towards adoption of cognitive and AI technologies. For example, does big data, artificial intelligence, neuromarketing connection play out? I understand it was. I have already asked this difficult question, but there's another point. There's AI, because the capacity of artificial intelligence are increasing, and well, about human intelligence there are different opinions, and again we are turning into an economy. So we see we have neuromarketing that and artificial intelligence and about big data. 3, the problem of organizational innovations that result from or condition the implementation of new neuromarketing tools should be addressed in more detail. This is quite similar to the question asked by Oleg Vladimirovich. So it's very interesting how this entire context, organizational innovations, is connected with neuromarketing. Are they available, and is it necessary? So what organizational innovations could result from the use of neuromarketing? Another drawback, neuromarketing tools that emerged after 2012 are discussed quite superficially. The paper used the term marketing of research and development results. However, in essence, it's marketing of innovation. And finally, in this study, the author compared factors influencing the development of neurotechnology and neuromarketing in China and Russia, but limited the analysis of commercial application of neurotechnology and e-commerce to the Chinese market. In future research, the scope of research could be expanded with a comparative analysis of commercial application of neurotechnology and e-commerce in China and in Russia, because since the topic is so important, it should be studied. Those use this technology. These drawbacks do not affect the overall positive assessment of the work, which has high practical and theoretical significance. So let me read the conclusion. The thesis by Jianfei, I beg your pardon, on the topic prospects and potential development of neurotechnologies and their use in e-commerce of China corresponds to the requirements set by the order on awarding academic degrees at St. Petersburg University. And degree applicant deserves awarding the degree of candidate of economics, specialty 08005, economics and management of a national economy, managing innovation. Article 11 of the above mentioned order has not been violated. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much, Vladimir Vladimirovich. Jianfei, how would you prefer to answer questions after? Would you prefer to answer each speaker individually, or would you like to answer all questions in the end? I would like to answer questions right away. Okay, then please. Thank you for your comments, Vladimir Vladimirovich. You asked me 6 questions about my thesis. As for the first question about social and humanitarian aspect, personally, I think in terms of economics, I support the development of neuromarketing and the study of its commercial application, because since 2017, when American economist Richard Taylor was awarded the Nobel Prize in Economics, our study of economics has shifted from analyzing pure data to investigating behavior patterns and paradoxes behind these data. Today, we have the technology to study the economic decisions and human behavior at the brain and even neurological level. The results we obtain are useful for updating business models and consumers' perception of products. So, naturally, it makes sense to develop this science. And next point, the field of social science is more concerned with the study of human emotions, ethics, reasoning, and we see all these elements in the study of neuromarketing. Thus, the study of neuromarketing includes elements of psychology and sociology. Although it is controversial, just like a nuclear bomb, indeed, there is a manipulation, but results achieved through this research strengthen our understanding of the changes of rational thinking and ethical thinking to new technology and economic activity. On the basis of that, from the social humanitarian perspective, my position is I support research and development of this science. Next, let me answer your question, number 2, about the connection with big data and artificial intelligence. Of course, I agree that we need to look at neuromarketing in the context of cognitive and artificial intelligence technologies. In fact, specifically for e-commerce sector, the combined application of neuromarketing, big data, and artificial intelligence is very promising idea. For example, the time that a user spends in a particular page of a website or application, their search habits, avatar settings, and color preferences are all collected by the system as big data automatically. Once the full set of user profile data has been collected, we can use this data to create a virtual person. How to give this virtual person a human personality, emotions, and ability to think individually is up to the artificial intelligence. And once such a living person has been created, it's no longer a human being who's the object of the neuromarketing experiment, but a virtual person that has been processed based on the data collected. While the implementation of some steps of this scenario is limited by existing technical conditions, the example of combining big data, as I said, of combining big data in marketing already exists. But big data are used for selection, and I already mentioned that. So, in other words, as we said, between big data, artificial intelligence, and neuromarketing, the connection is in the economic field. They complement each other and they are integrated with each other. Question 3. In terms of organizational innovation, creating specialized in-house research departments within companies for neuromarketing research and promotion, as well as implementation of industry, academia, research collaboration models will, in terms of creating new or improving existing neuromarketing tools, as well as finding innovative ways to apply them correctly, and also to find new ways of their commercial use. Now let me take your question number 4. Why neuromarketing tools emerged after 2012 in my thesis are covered rather superficially. This is connected with the fact that after since 2021, no new instruments, neuromarketing instruments, have appeared. As I said, after in 1990, the MRT was included. The work of developers. The developers focused on improving sensitivity and making the existing tools more portable and on increasing scenarios of their use. So after 2012, completely new equipment became available. Remark number 4. When defining the term innovation, I used the term research and development results or outputs. In my opinion, research and development results include both results in the form of products and technical outputs that are themselves innovative in nature. And innovation marketing refers to the use of innovative views, methods, means and concepts for the whole process of marketing activity itself. Thus, marketing of innovative products, innovative technical results require the use of innovative marketing methods and approaches. In the context of this thesis, these two concepts are strongly interrelated. Finally, the last question. Thank you for your suggestions. In this case, dust limitations, data collected from surveys, which enabled me to compare neuromarketing technology in sphere of e-commerce in Russia and in China. But the line of study that you have suggested is relevant and has practical significance as well. Thank you. Then let's continue our session. The floor is given to Drobosh Imar. Your review, please. Thank you. Dear colleagues, let me not read the entire review. Let me just read a few sentences. This thesis is well structured and corresponds to the international standards, and that is very good. It has 4 chapters, can be seen as individual articles. Neuromarketing, know the situation, correspond to the expectations described in, and this neuromarketing, I think, is very new territory for scientists. There are many. There is much literature, but I think that 10 years ago, I think this thesis is also agrees with the requirements, meets the requirements in the sphere of empirical research. We saw that. Yet, I should say that the questionnaire, which is 11 pages long, and that's 11 pages. I think that's too much. If you want I think it takes too long to fill. Would be possible to make a shorter questionnaire and analyze with the help of more in-depth statistical analysis. I can see that the applicant used page 26, and I think that each time, so maybe I will talk about something. There are such methods. Also, I should mention that we mostly see the information about neuromarketing. I think that first of all you need the managers of the company to be interested in innovation. And I have another question here. What do you think? How long? How much time your questionnaire took? 11 pages is too long, and maybe it would be better to this can be gives the opportunity successfully publish, and it has 4 chapters. It could be turned into 4 articles. It's publications, but maybe there is still an opportunity to publish a little more papers. And here's what I would like to say. I certainly recommend to accept the thesis and award to the applicant the degree of candidate of economical sciences. As for questions, my questions. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Your answers, please. First, let me thank you for your critical remarks. I will take your questions, the questions you asked on the website, and then I will briefly talk about the questionnaire that you just mentioned. So the first remark, number 1, about surveying, about definition, I beg your pardon. Of course, as the author of this thesis and as a young scientist, I should have paid more attention to but the study of this fairly new discipline is limited by a number and depth of existing literature. And as for your suggestion, of course, thank you for your suggestion for e-commerce industry. Direct target audience are individual consumers, but comparison of the use of the B2B and B2C markets, as I said, these are relevant spheres which are interesting for me also. And finally, the questionnaire that you have just mentioned. Some people complained when they had to fill it in. They said it's too long, 11 pages with over 20 questions, but it requires 28 to 30 minutes to fill in, and that to some degree it affects accuracy of the results of my survey. But here, please pay attention to the fact that all the participants were connected with me. So I think they took my survey seriously. That is why data collected are efficient for this and valid for this research also. I think there was another question about the questionnaire, 11 pages long. The questionnaire, I think the questionnaire, which was 11 pages long, I think that is too much. How can you explain it? I think I understood your question. I think the questionnaire is long because the questionnaire comprises 2 parts, and in my future papers I will divide the existing questionnaire. For example, this questionnaire was too long. I will divide questionnaires in 2 parts. The first part dedicated, for example, and send it to respondents twice. That way we can collect relevant data for our research. I see. Thank you for your review. Thank you. Let us continue. And dear colleagues, their study is dedicated to the use of neurotechnology in the sphere of marketing and e-commerce, considering specific features of the Chinese economy. I agree that this technology is relevant for development of new products and services. We should accept that the questions are valid, such as development of new technology and their use in the marketing, and the validity of scientific propositions is based on broad scientific study of the sources. Vladimir Vladimirovich already mentioned that. Also, the author independently collected and analyzed information, and his original approach described in paragraph 2.3, how he selected literature to conduct his study. I think this information, as an example, the applicant conducted 2 surveys in 2018 and 2019, where he obtained sufficient information to test multiple hypotheses. The primary nature of this information enables to think that it is connected with the testing of novelty of I think the most significant results that have scientific novelty are as follows. First, the author explored the level of study of neuromarketing in China. As a result of that, he identified its strengths and weaknesses. And when analyzing field study results, the author revealed attitude of Chinese citizens to the use of neurotechnology, pages 110, 122. Out of 7 hypotheses made by the author, 3 were confirmed. The author revealed awareness of the people in China on the use of neuromarketing. The author made 3 hypotheses, 2 were confirmed. And though awareness of the Chinese population is low, the people have positive attitude to the use of neurotechnology in this sphere. Pages 150 and 157 of the thesis. Comparative analysis of awareness of Chinese citizens and Russian citizens of neurotechnology and neuromarketing, their use in commercial purposes, 131, 132. Special interest should be paid to results, change analysis, the analysis of the changes that occurred after the coronavirus pandemic, pages 157, 170. The author gave some recommendations for the use of neurotechnology instruments to e-commerce companies in China in the post-pandemic period. And though the thesis has obvious advantages, analyzing the current state of development of neuromarketing, the author lists companies, mostly international companies, that use neuromarketing in their activities. But in the practical part of the research, the analysis of is only conducted at the individual level. But it's the attitude of companies to neuromarketing that determines its actual popularity in commerce. I believe that in order to more fully realize the research, it would be useful to investigate the use of neuromarketing in specific companies as well as attitudes of their management towards its use. Second, in the first chapter, the author describes the use of neuro-technologies and neuromarketing tools, including their use in non-commercial fields. For example, for predicting political elections or optimizing the e-government. However, specific examples of the use of neurotechnology and neuromarketing in non-commercial fields are not given, although such information and comments by the author would be very interesting. And number 3, when analyzing the current state of neuromarketing in China, the author mentions that at this stage some of the Chinese universities, for example Zhejiang University, are able and prefer to share special equipment and technology for and functional magnetic resonance imaging equipment. Also, in the first chapter of the thesis, it describes how to interpret the event-related potential data. In this regard, it would be very interesting to link one to the other by adding to the list of relevant experiments an example of an experiment based on the event. This is due to the fact that at this stage, the theoretical research in neuromarketing is relatively well represented, while experimental research and quantitative analysis in this field is still underdeveloped. And still, these drawbacks and critical remarks do not touch upon the main theoretical provisions and recommendations given by the author and the overall positive assessment of the work. The work was written independently, it has relevance, the propositions are well grounded, the results have practical significance, and the conclusion is that the thesis by Jianfei on the theme Prospects and Potential of Development of Neuro-technology and Their Use in the Electronic Commerce in China, said by the order on the 1st of September 2016, number 6821/1 on awarding academic degrees in Peter's University. The applicant, Jianfei, deserves awarding the degree of Candidate of Economics, specialty 080005, Economics and National Economy Management, Management Innovation. Article 11 has not been violated by the applicant. Thank you, Oleg Vladimirovich. The floor is given to the applicant. Thank you very much for your critical remarks, Oleg Vladimirovich. Let me answer your remarks. Remark number 1. I completely agree with what you said. In fact, at the beginning, I had a plan to conduct a survey not only for individuals, but also for companies as legal entities. But in practice, it turned out that collecting data from companies and interviewing or conducting interviews with company management is not an easy task for a young researcher, as I don't have direct contact with companies' management yet. Moreover, the facts of applying neurotechnology and neuromarketing to specific companies, as I mentioned in my thesis, are confidential information for them. Second comment, in my opinion, the use of neurotechnology in the non-profit sector, I have already commented on it earlier. For example, for prediction of political elections, this is quite a sensitive topic. If we talk about the cases of such use that have been published and described in literature, for example, but who used neurotechnology and where, and to how accurate the technologies are, such information is not published, I think. But my personal opinion to the use of these technologies in the non-commercial sector is ambiguous. More specifically, I consider their use to optimize the e-government and improve the quality of online services is normal, but prediction of elections and then on the basis of the forecast developing a strategy to make the results useful to someone, this application I do not support. Next, speaking of potential connected with events, first, it's true that apart from experience with combined use of fMRI experiments with event-related potential technique, not as important in the field of neuromarketing research in China. However, the results of these experiments themselves are constantly being updated. For example, in early experiment results, researchers defined the element positive as positive component of brain waves that appear 100-120 milliseconds after stimulation. And in subsequent experiments, this interval was extended to 150 milliseconds. Thus, the SAR experiments are not yet among the representative experiments. However, as you mentioned, there's still very little quantitative analysis in research in this area. I completely agree with this. This phenomenon is particularly pronounced in countries where neuromarketing and neurotechnology are underdeveloped at the moment. Thank you. Next, let me give the floor to Leila Ivanovna. Dear Chairman, dear guests, I think the thesis that we are discussing today is relevant and timely. Nobody has any doubt that neurotechnology as a marketing instrument certainly has a great potential to study and develop targeted marketing strategies. I will not expand and dwell on the review published on the website, which touches upon validity, novelty, and let me dwell more on points of discussion. Comparative analysis in table 15 and detailed analysis of drawbacks of the use of this problem, in my opinion, cannot be used to justify the author's conclusions about its superiority over traditional marketing tools. It would be interesting to hear some comments. As the comprehensive analysis of risks of neuromarketing by individual companies was not included. Of course, there are many general and specific risks associated with the use of this technology, such as the risk of intrusion into the responder's personal space, misuse of information in neuromarketing service, etc. In addition, the paper does not calculate the socio-economic effect of the author's proposed recommendations for the use of neuromarketing by Chinese business entities in e-commerce industry in the post-pandemic period. Despite these points, they have no impact on the overall positive assessment of the thesis. The thesis is an independent and complete study which has novelty and practical significance, and the thesis on prospects and potential of development of neurotechnology and their use in e-commerce in China corresponds to the requirements set by the order on awarding academic degrees at St. Petersburg University, and applicant Jianfei deserves awarding the degree of Candidate of Economics, specialty 080005 Economics and Managing the National Economy, Managing Innovation. Articles 9 and 11 of the Bowman Charter has not been violated. Thank you, Leila Ivanovna. Thank you very much for your comments. Leila Ivanovna, let me answer your first comment about advantages. To prove that neuromarketing is better than traditional marketing, we must demonstrate that with neuromarketing we can obtain more effective experimental data faster than with traditional marketing at the same cost. Even though the experiments themselves are more efficient and safer, the marketing strategies based on experimental data from neuromarketing are more effective. Due to the lower cost of experimental equipment, some experiments with neuromarketing are now less expensive than those with traditional marketing, and neuromarketing has access to a wider range of data that traditional marketing doesn't, especially on subconscious and emotional levels. We are back to doing the experiments again. The effectiveness of experiments depends on their design and equipment, including the thoroughness of design, accuracy of the equipment, and work and professionalism of the specialists. In order to determine what marketing strategies based on neuromarketing experiments are more effective or not, we need a workable way to calculate the benefits of neuromarketing that will be the subject of the author's further research. The second comment: first of all, thank you for your suggestion. Indeed, this study only singles out various risks that may be associated with the use of neuromarketing, but do not use a specific company as an example to analyze systemic risks that may arise from the use of neuromarketing. In addition to the risks of intrusion into personal space of the respondent and malicious use of information that are part of the ethical issue of this science, I will then discuss the risks that a firm may face from the standpoint of managing their risks. In fact, companies using neuromarketing, especially those smaller companies, may encounter strategic, financial, operational, and legal risks. And more specifically, when a small company with no money decides to use neuromarketing that requires capital investment and the strategy developed does not immediately bring the company additional profit, the company faces a strategic risk. Even more so when the company has taken out a loan for neuromarketing experiments. It's also exposed to financial risks. The operational risk occurs when the operational goals of the company using neuromarketing are not achieved because of changes in the external environment. A company may face legal risk as a result of changes in the legal environment when special legislation governing this area of business is suddenly introduced in the process of using neuromarketing. And next, the recommendations proposed by the author in this thesis for e-commerce companies in the post-pandemic era consist of 3 points, including the following point: after the pandemic, especially in the autumn-winter period, e-commerce companies should use neuromarketing to filter content posted on their web pages and mobile applications to eliminate calculating the socio-economic impact of this recommendation is essentially a calculation of the value of strategy developed with the help of neuromarketing, where the quantification of some values is quite difficult. All the more so, manifestation of the socio-economic value of such recommendation requires a longer time horizon. Thank you. Let us continue. Olga Nikolaevna, your review, please. Dear colleagues, obviously this thesis is dedicated to a relevant theme, the significance of which is connected with the need to form new practice-oriented approaches in marketing activities. The publications of the author confirm validity and scientific significance of propositions submitted for defense. So the most significant results: first of all, on the basis of his research, the author defined neuromarketing which stands for integrated understanding based on interdisciplinary approach. Second, the author validates the idea that development and neuromarketing as applied science in different countries is developed to various degrees. Factors stimulating or inhibiting its development depend on the country features. Pages 70 and 73 results of field studies conducted by the author are of scientific and practical interest. On the basis of analysis of contemporary situation with neuromarketing in China, the author made some hypotheses which were tested in the course of surveying and in pages 90, 125, 131, 132. The multi-factor approach to identification of industry features of neuromarketing on the basis of e-commerce. The author formulated specific features of neuromarketing for this sphere of activity, studied awareness of the Chinese population about the use of neuromarketing and neurotechnology in the sphere of e-commerce, and studied the impact of the environment on business of Chinese e-companies. The use of neuromarketing in this sphere in the post-pandemic era can be used to identify the potential neuromarketing technologies to increase competitiveness of companies, including development of e-commerce platforms, conversion coefficient, and other factors, pages 157, 169. Despite high relevance, the thesis contains a number of points for discussion. And first of all, let me say that additional discussion in the theoretical part of the work connected with internet marketing could be another advantage of this study, because a detailed study of the connection between is of interest, of scientific and practical interest. Also, when considering the application of neurotechnology in innovation marketing, it would be useful to identify the specifics of its use in both the B2C and B2B markets. In the thesis, the author mainly focused on researching the B2C market in China. And one more point I would like to mention, there's a notable contradiction in emphasizing the ethical dimension of neuromarketing, but recommending that e-commerce companies should not yet advertise the use of neuromarketing and neurotechnology in their operations. I'm quoting, but in general, these critical remarks do not affect the overall high quality of results achieved by the applicant. So the thesis by Jianfei on the theme Prospects and Potential of Development of Neurotechnology and their Application in E-Commerce of China corresponds to the requirements set by the Order on Awarding Academic Degrees at St. Petersburg University. And applicant Yan Jianfei deserves awarding degree of Candidate of Economics, specialty 080005, Economics and Managing the National Economy, Managing Innovations. Article 11 of the above-mentioned order has not been violated by the author. Thank you very much, Olga Nikolaevna. Your answers, please. Thank you for your questions and remarks, Olga Nikolaevna. Let me answer your remark number one. I completely agree with your opinion. Indeed, about internet marketing, indeed, from a scientific point of view, neurotechnology can be applied to internet marketing, so they are closely related to each other. But examining the issues surrounding the internet marketing, we can identify the existing problems. Against this background, we can try to develop ways of applying neurotechnology to solve some practical problems in internet marketing, as well as to increase the effectiveness of internet marketing. Next, regarding your second comment, yes, in this thesis, we only looked at the specifics of using neurotechnology in marketing on e-commerce platforms, because at this stage the main form of commerce operating on e-commerce platform in China is B2C. As companies on e-commerce platforms mainly deal with individual customers, thus the target audience for the application of neurotechnology is mainly the Chinese population. However, in the next phase, I already have a plan to conduct a field study for companies. Hopefully, this plan will include more research on specifics of the use of neurotechnology in the B2B market in China. Next, your final remark. Indeed, I emphasize the ethical problems associated with the use of neurotechnology and in marketing, as such issues have been of concern to many researchers, especially in France. However, in my personal opinion, most of the ethical problems can be avoided by careful design of experimental regulations and the use of more modern equipment. In addition, I believe that at this stage, it's not advisable for companies to disclose the use of neurotechnology in their activities, not because it's absolutely harmful, but because awareness of neurotechnology is still low among the Chinese population. They are therefore unlikely to be able to judge objectively the advantages and disadvantages of using neurotechnology for commercial purposes. Thank you. Thank you. Now it's time for my review, dear colleagues. The work is dedicated to a relevant topic that does not require additional comments. Propositions appear valid and well-grounded. As for the personal contribution of the author made a personal contribution in the study of in sphere of e-commerce in China in conditions of a trade war between China and US in the time of the pandemic and post-pandemic era. The author also conducted a study to the awareness of the Chinese population of the use of neurotechnology. We should especially mention those provisions that have novelty, scientific novelty first, from the point of development of the sixth technological in the light of recent innovation technology. In the thesis analyzed the key neurotechnology used in marketing. The author provide own definition of neuromarketing in pages 39-40. Second, the author analyzed the level of development of neurotechnology and their use around the world. The author concluded that the leaders are US, UK, and Germany. The author identified the main factors that inhibit the use of neurotechnology for commercial purposes. The main problem is how ethical neuromarketing is. Pages 72, 73, 86, 87. Next, the author studied the level of infrastructure for neuromarketing research in China, identified strong and weak of this infrastructure, pages 97-105. In the context of commercialization of innovation, the author obtained results of a field study to identify the citizens' attitude to the use of neurotechnology for commercial purposes. Here, the author tested a number of hypotheses, 118, 123. The author also tested author's hypothesis on the level of awareness of neurotechnology and neuromarketing among the Chinese population, the relations of the Chinese public to the use of neurotechnology in marketing for commercial purposes and in the sphere of e-commerce. The author explored the link between the degree of awareness of neurotechnology among the Chinese population and their assessment of this technology, which is especially valuable in the context of improving awareness of in this sphere of technical development, pages 115, 118, 122, 123, and 149, 156. Also, the author proved that there are no significant difference between assessment of different aspects where platform use neuromarketing and neurotechnology. The author explained that awareness of the Chinese population of the use of neurotechnology does not affect frequency of internet purchases on e-commerce platform, pages 152, 156. At the same time, the work contains some omissions and drawbacks. So first of all, in the first chapter, theoretical aspects, the author compares neuromarketing with traditional marketing tools from the point of and comes to the conclusion that neuromarketing tools are more effective than questionnaires and interviews in target audience research with small sample data, that neuromarketing can provide deeper and more reliable information hidden at the subconscious level of consumers. And portable neuromarketing devices will, in near future, allow researchers to conduct field research and collect data in real time, in the time of purchase. However, in this study, the author did not provide a working algorithm formula for calculating the effectiveness of neuromarketing tools in collecting consumer data. To substantiate the view that neuromarketing tools are more efficient than traditional marketing tools in terms of data collection. Second, in the fourth chapter, the author states that Chinese giant e-commerce companies are widely using neurotechnology and neuromarketing in their commercial activities, and states that combining neuromarketing with big data and AI can lead to increased sales and conversion rate for e-commerce companies, but does not provide a specific plan to compare sales of a profit of companies before and after using neurotechnology and neuromarketing. Further research could fill this gap by looking at how the net increase in company profits from neurotechnology and neuromarketing could be measured. So this is a recommendation for the future, and well, there are some stylistic errors in the presentation of material. And in conclusion, the general conclusion is that the thesis by Jianfei on the theme prospects and potential development of neurotechnology and their application in e-commerce in China corresponds to the requirements set by order of the first, dated the 1st of September 2016, number 6821/1, on awarding academic degrees at St. Petersburg University. And the applicant Jianfei deserves awarding the degree of Candidate of Economics, Specialty 080005 Economics and National Economy Management, Managing Innovation, Articles 9 and 11 of the above-mentioned order. And don't be violated. Thank you. Your answers, please. Thank you for your comments and remarks, Elena Mikhailovna. Let me answer your first comment. Actually, it's not difficult to deduce logically that neuromarketing tools are more effective. Let's assume when the subject is just one person, he represents a group of people from the standpoint of neuromarketing research, because data collected from him is objective and doesn't depend on his linguistic description. But in studies with traditional marketing, he only represents himself. In addition, from the mathematical point, it's not easy to derive such a formula in practice, while it's not difficult to get the raw data for neuromarketing experiments, including quantitative values, such as equipment costs, staff, salaries, experimental costs, etc. But it will be problematic to quantify these results. Simply put, how much the results cost. But in my future study, I plan to take a look at this issue. Next, about the second comment. Thank you for your recommendations. The problem with trying to apply practical method of calculating and comparing sales or profits is that it's difficult to isolate a specific factor contributing to higher profits as a result of use of neuromarketing, neuro-technology. This is because the whole marketing mix is applied. A number of factors simultaneously contribute to the promotion of products, making it difficult to determine how much of the increased profits are actually due to strategies developed from neuromarketing rather than other intervening factors, such as other factors, such as seasonality. And one more thing about your last remark about style and stylistic errors. As I said, learning Russian is a lifelong task. I love this language, and at that I think that there is no limit to perfection. Thank you very much for your answers. Then, dear colleagues, dear council members, please let me know, are you all satisfied with the answers? Are you all satisfied with Jianfei's answers? Yes? Yes? Vladimir Vladimirovich, are you satisfied with the answers? Imre Dobosh, are you satisfied? Dr. Dobosh? Yes. Yes. Then let us continue our session. Is anyone present here willing to speak? If yes, please welcome. But I think nobody is willing to speak. Then let's proceed to the next item. That's presentation of questions. I think we received no such questions, so this question we can skip this issue. Next, let's give the floor to the academic advisor of the applicant, Nikolai Nikolaevich Molchanov, professor of St. Petersburg University. Please tell us about the applicant, since my task is to introduce the applicant as a professional. So first of all, I'd like to draw your attention to to how hardworking he is. Remember, his basic education is in philology, and during 2 years of the master's course, he managed to study the material that usually takes 4 or 5 years to study. He took exams, not only the exams at St. Petersburg University, but he also took internationally certified exams. In my opinion, he got a satisfactory mark, but his master's thesis, their score was excellent. When he got enrolled in the doctoral course, I had to work very closely with him, help him with methodology, read his texts carefully. But at the final stage, he was an independent researcher who was capable to set himself tasks and solve these tasks. Also, I would like to emphasize that he took up a complex issue which has strategic significance for competitiveness of his country, and he's done what he could do over this period. For him, this material, his work will not stop, and he mentioned that already. And once he graduates, once he finishes, he will work under the guidance with the leading expert and of China in this field. I think we are facing a world-class expert here. Thank you, Nikolai Nikolaevich. Dear colleagues, is anybody else willing to speak? Is anybody willing? present here willing to speak, then let us continue. At that, let's close our discussion. And before we sum it up, let me ask the council members and the degree applicant, do you have any questions or comments? Questions regarding the procedure of today's meeting, since we used the remote access mode? No questions. No. Next, let's proceed to voting, and it's 12:44 Moscow time. 55, I beg your pardon. Dear colleagues, now we have the opportunity, before we vote, we may discuss the results, and the sound shall be muted. What do you think? Do we need such a discussion? No, we don't. Thank you. So we don't need such a discussion. Then let us continue. I put the question of awarding to Jianfei the degree of Candidate of Economical Sciences, specialty 08005 Economics and National Economy Management, Knowledge Innovation, to open individual vote. Let me remind you that a decision of the Dissertation Council on awarding a degree shall be considered positive if at least a half, but not less than 3 persons of the voting members voted for it, according to Article 23 of the Order. Council member Olga Nikolaevna Korobleva, your opinion? I vote for. Thank you. Council member Motovilov Oleg Vladimirovich, your opinion? I am for. Council member Platonov Vladimir Vladimirovich, your opinion? I am for. Council member Dobosh Imre, your opinion? I am for. And me, the chairman, Korostashevskaya Elena Mikhailовna, my opinion is for. Let me count the votes and announce the results. I vote for. Thank you very much. Let's proceed to the next stage. Now, dear colleagues and guests, let me inform you that out of 6 voting council members, 6 voted for, nobody voted against, and nobody abstained. The decision on awarding to Jianfei the degree of Candidate of Economics, Academic Specialty 08005 Economics and National Economy Management, Innovation Management has been made. Dear colleagues, since our session was held with participants working in the remote access mode, do council members, the applicant, or any of the attendees have any questions or comments regarding the procedure of today's session? Any questions? Leila Ivarovna? No, I don't have any questions. Gankalana, I have no questions. Oleg Vladimirovich, I have no comments and no questions. Vladimir Vladimirovich, no questions. Domosh Imre? No, also no comments. I don't have any comments either. Then let's give the floor to the applicant for his closing remarks. First of all, I would like to thank all the council members and the chairman of the Dissertation Council for finding the time to study my thesis, and for your questions and comments that helped me to identify weak points and points for discussion in my thesis. Besides that, I would like to thank all the staff of Dissertation Council Committee Support Department for at the stage of preparation. Let me also thank all the professors of of Economics of Research and Development for their comments and all their articles and in scientific conferences. These comments and suggestions provided the opportunity to improve my thesis and to understand where I'm moving in the right direction. I also thank my family and my friends and all the people who took part in surveys. With their emotional support, this thesis was completed, and my special thanks to my academic supervisor Nikolai Nikolaevich Molchanov. Thank you very much for your help and support during my entire scientific career up to this point, and that you are always willing to help, to support even in such difficult times. Thank you everybody very much. Now let us congratulate the applicant. Let me congratulate you on successful defense of your thesis. Our session is closed. Thank you everybody. Please stop broadcasting the session.